Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? As the great Scott Hansen would say, football!
Yes, sir.
That's what we got this weekend. I love this sport. I sit there and I watch it, and it doesn't even matter if I have fantasy football. I'm just watching and I'm like, there's not a better sport.
Yeah, it's great. I probably won't do this all season because it's not good for your health. And
no, I like the bets. Keep them coming.
Well, the bets, that might not stop. But I sat on my couch at like 12:15.
Yep.
And I don't think I got off my couch until about 12:15 that night. Other than food and going to the bathroom, I was just watching every football game.
We love it. You're just watching by yourself?
I watched the Pats game. My dad watched the whole Pats game with me. And then he did his own thing at like 4 something. He wanted to listen to Brady for a little bit, but then he took off.
Oh.
And then I was watching games.
There you go. We like that.
And guess what?
Football.
That was my freaking glory. It was awesome.
Oh, it is wonderful to sit there. I was watching, partially watching Red Zone, partially watching our football team that sucks. But it was great. It was a great Sunday. You know who we are. It was at the bottom of the video. My name is Morgan Colby. Got Rick Lemon with me as always. But yes, wonderful week one. Any quick hitting thoughts?
I'm really just glad football's back. There's a lot of storylines that you could talk about. I think rookie quarterbacks overall didn't perform well.
Not just rookie quarterbacks, the regular ones too.
But yes, quarterbacks in general, passing game in general was really bad. I tweeted out that like there's only 2 of the 26 starters up until like not including the Thursday, Friday, and Monday game, so just Sunday.
Yeah.
2 of the 26 starters threw for 300 yards.
Oh.
And I think 10 of the 26 threw 200 yards.
That's crazy.
Which means 16 of the 26 quarterbacks threw under 200 yards passing.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Really, really bad.
Yeah, not great, Bob. I would say offensively in general, there wasn't a lot of great performances. I think the first 2 games that you had of the season on Thursday and Friday were excellent offensive games. Lots of scoring. I do think the Mexico game or Brazil game, I kept on saying it was in Mexico, but it was in Brazil. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That one was sloppy, but still a lot of scoring. So it was interesting. Once the Sunday game started, man, it was just like,
slugfest.
It was just a lot of like low scoring games, not great offensive performances. You were waiting for more like boom plays from some of the. I think we're going to get a complete opposite turnaround this week of that.
Okay.
So that's usually how things go. But yeah, I would hope so too. But anyway, we're back to bring you content. We didn't bring you waiver wire content yesterday, but as the season goes along, we will talk about waiver wire guys to add. I did add Isaiah Likely. If you didn't, and he's available, go add Isaiah Likely. He's probably the top ad this week, if I had to be honest. That and Jordan Mason. Ooh.
Yeah, Mason would be number 1 if he was available.
If he's available, go get him. But
you don't like Wandale?
I don't mind Wandale. It's just the Giants are so bad at football.
They are terrible.
It's like, are we gonna do this with Wandale again? Or
unfortunately.
But today we're going to talk about must-start players for week 2. So we're going to give you 6 guys that you should be starting this week in your fantasy lineups. And later this week we'll get you our 6 sits that a guy should be taking out of your lineups, and then we'll do some trade targets or something or rather. Anyway, before we jump into our must-starts this week, check our website. I always say that, and it's not there. It doesn't exist. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Is in the process of being rebuilt.
Force of habit.
Force of habit, though. But follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You just type our name in and you'll find us. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, please leave a review and share this pod with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. Those are ways you can support the podcast because we need your support. We need you just to continue making this content. You know what I'm saying? All right. 6 must-start players for week 2. Let's start with number 1. The resurgent J.K. Dobbins at the worst team in football, Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. Not just the worst team in football, but the worst run defense in football.
I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty sure Carolina would finish like 3rd or 4th place in the UFL.
Yeah, I don't know. I do know this. Derek Brown, who is their best player, former first-round pick, defensive tackle. I think he might have been an All-Pro as well. He's a Pro Bowl player. Got injured this week, and he's out for the season.
Oh.
So he's on IR. Oh. So their best run defender, best defensive player in general, out for the season. So there's that. The Chargers are a run-heavy team.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh loves to run the ball, loves to get the boys going on the ground. So we have a team that's run-heavy versus a team that is terrible against the run in a positive game script. So the Chargers should, honestly, both running backs will probably eat, but Dobbins, I think we both agree, is the better of the two. So if you got J.K. Dobbins and you're thinking about starting him after his good week, I'd throw him out there again against Carolina.
Yeah, for real. J.K., like I said, resurgent. You've been waiting for this guy for years here to be something. What is this, his 4th year, 5th year in the league?
Yeah, and, he's had so many injuries.
He's had so many injuries. I thought he was cooked after he left the Ravens, and that's why I wasn't really like, as a late round draft selection, I wasn't really like, oh my God, J.K. Dobbins, go get him.
Yeah, he's coming off a torn Achilles too.
It wasn't a bad, which is never good for running backs.
No.
Which is why it's stunning that he got 3.5 yards a carry. And he looked explosive, like he didn't look like you would after. Usually running backs after Achilles injury. Remember James Robinson?
Oh, yeah, he was done. Even Cam Akers, looked better this year in the preseason, but last year or the year before, whenever he tore his Achilles, he looked pretty slow.
So you hope that, whatever, like in the next coming weeks, that he doesn't kind of have that Achilles setback. You know what I mean? That tends to always happen with these guys. But he had 58% of the snaps, 10 carries, 135 yards. He also had 3 targets, 3 catches for 4 yards. So not great there. But he scored a touchdown and he had a huge run in the game. So
he had 2 big runs.
There is a lack of he was 60% of the snaps is really good for him. But Gus Bus was also involved in that rushing attack. And so hopefully J.K. Dobbins earned himself a little bit more work going into the next week. Maybe 15 carries? Carries, Mr. Harbaugh? Coach, you want to help us out?
Hopefully.
But anyway, yeah, they are going up against the Carolina Panthers, who Rick said, they're already terrible, but they lost one of their best players, so it just means even worse things. Last week, I can't remember who they played. They played
Saints.
It's the Saints, and they gave up 32 fantasy points to the running back position against New Orleans Saints. So I can imagine this is only going to get worse for them against a ground and pound football team in the Los Angeles Chargers. Dobbins should be in your starting lineup this week if you have him, if you're looking for a second flex or you're done with your running backs.
Yeah,
I have a question for you, Rick.
I agreed.
You were kind of fading Aaron Jones this week.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, not this past week. I mean, week 2.
Oh, for
this week.
This
upcoming he's going up
week,
against San Fran. Would you, if you had Dobbins, start him over Aaron Jones?
Ooh. I don't know. That's
tough.
I would consider it. I would definitely consider it.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to say, I want to get the heat check. I don't know. Aaron Jones is Aaron Jones, so it makes it kind of tough, but
Aaron Jones, I think, still has a floor. Like, I don't think his ceiling is high this week.
Like, if
the
J.K.
49ers
defense
defense is just like Fred Warner is a machine at linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Aaron Jones is going to be efficient this week,
Sure.
but I don't know if you could bench him after the week he just had.
Yep. All right. I agree. All right, let's talk about the next guy. Another running back, Najee Harris at Denver. Now listen, Najee's not going to give you 100 fantasy points and make you feel good about yourself, or catch 7 passes for 70 yards and score a touch. Like, he's not going to make you feel good about it. It's never going to happen. The only year that Najee ever made you feel good about drafting him was the first one, and that's been about it. Now you draft Najee going, all right, yeah, hey, 10 points, I'll take it.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at with Najee. But this past week, I was talking about in the offseason, they rejected his 5th-year option on his rookie contract. And that signaled to me that they were just going to try to bury him into the ground until he either left this football team in the offseason or got hurt. So right now, this week, he had 20 carries for 70 yards. So it wasn't great, but he's going to get a lot of work. And when he plays easier matchups, it is going to be beneficial for your fantasy team to start Najee Harris. So going up against Denver this week, a little bit easier of an opponent. If he gets 20 carries, he'll likely be more efficient, maybe score a touchdown, and you'll get 16 to 18 fantasy points out of him. So I think he's a good start this week, and a good guy to get in your lineup.
Yeah, Najee kind of is what he is, but this is a good start. As you said, he's going to get a lot of touches. And going against Denver, it is a good matchup. Kenneth Walker put up 100 yards rushing on them just a week ago.
Yeah.
Denver's defense is okay, but their rushing defense is not great. They're better in the secondary. So it is a good matchup for him. And if he gets 21 touches again,
Sure.
He should probably have more than 79 total yards in this game.
Yeah.
With a really good chance to get a touchdown. So this could be one of those weeks where Najee never does 30. He'll never give you 30, but he won't ever give you less than like 7 or 8 either.
Yeah.
So this could be one of those games where he's at like 15, 16,
Mm-hmm.
and is just a really solid start for you.
And I think Jalen Warren is a sneaky option too.
There you go.
If you have him. All right, number 3, wide receiver Malik Neighbors from the New York Giants playing the Washington. This is going to be one of the most interesting football games I've ever watched. Not two of the worst teams in the NFL right now. But Neighbors was getting open all over his film last week. He had 7 targets, 5 catches, no touchdowns, 66 yards. So he didn't have a bad week. But he was out there. Route participation was absolutely fantastic. He's going to get the ball more at some point, more than 7 times. Like, Rick picked up Wan'Dale. He referenced Wan'Dale Robinson early in the show, had 12 targets this week. I don't think he continues to get that many targets. I think that'll shift to Nabbers, and you'll see him get somewhere in the vicinity of 9 or 10 targets every single week, which is a guy that you want in your starting lineup. So if you're not starting him just on that sheer fact, you should be. And then specifically against Washington this week, he should have a really good week. Hopefully, the Giants can get their head out of their butt and start playing some good football. But give me your thoughts on Nabbers, Rick.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. Daniel Jones freaking blows, but
it sucks that the guy throwing him the ball sucks.
Yeah, he threw a pick 6, 2 interceptions this week, and had a 50% completion percentage, just about a little over 50%. So It was disgusting. Daniel Jones continues to suck, but that's okay because they're going to throw the ball a lot in a negative game script. And this game might not be a negative game script, but the thing with Washington is they just gave up like 40 points to the Bucs and 4 passing touchdowns.
Sure.
And last year they had one of the worst secondaries in the league, and they didn't do anything to address it. So far through 1 week, very small sample size, but they have the worst secondary in football. Emmanuel Forbes, who was their first-round pick a couple years ago, which as a Pats fan, we're both very grateful for because the Patriots ended up taking the next cornerback, which was Christian Gonzalez with the next pick. But they took Forbes 16th overall 2 years ago. He got benched this week. He's terrible. He's a bust.
Yeah.
And they were really relying on him to take a step forward in that secondary. And because he so far hasn't done that, their secondary is not good. So Malik Neighbors is going to have one of the best matchups he's going to have all year. He showed flashes, as you said on tape. He was getting open all game.
Sure.
All that has to happen this week is Daniel Jones getting the ball. If that happens, he's going to score fantasy points, and this could be one of this could be a breakout game, and this could be one of his big weeks that he gets all season. He might not score more than 5 or 6 touchdowns this year, but I would be willing to bet that one of his touchdowns will come against Washington, and it very well could be this week.
Yeah, I agreed. I also want to mention Washington last week gave up 51 fantasy points to the wide receiver position.
Yeah, they were getting cooked.
Absolutely. Okay, next guy is Zay Flowers versus the Raiders. Raiders suck. I think it's as simple as that. If you're not starting Zay, you probably should be because he's very good at football. This past week, he had 10 targets, 6 catches, so he's going to be a featured part of this offense. He only had 11 points against the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think the Ravens will come out this week. I would imagine Zay Flowers. There is going to be a target decrease for everyone in the offense besides Mark Andrews. Likely will probably come down from his 12. Zay Flowers will likely come down from his 10 targets. It'll probably be in the 6-7 range. But I think that Zay could be a really good matchup this week against the Raiders. He can be really efficient, hopefully way more efficient than he was last week, and maybe score a touchdown.
Yeah, Zay's a guy that, like, I don't know if he's going to get 10 targets every week, but I do think he's their number one passing option. So, like, is he going to get 10 targets this week? No, but I don't know. But I do think he'll get around 8 to me, like around 8 targets every single week.
Yeah.
And he only had 11 fantasy points, as you said, but he could have very easily gotten a lot more this week against the Chiefs. So I expect him to have a bigger week this week in week 2 against the Raiders. And there are people I know that have him in their flex and that are thinking about sitting him.
Yeah.
From guys that had a better week on their bench. So I would not do it. I actually am in a 10-man league where I have Zay Flowers on my bench because the league is just kind of, it's just a regular league with regular people. And I think there are leagues like that where you have Zay Flowers on your bench or in your flex spot. So if you're in those just regular 10-person leagues and you're thinking about sitting Zay Flowers, I would not. Start him against the Raiders, good matchup, and a guy who's the clear wide receiver one on his team.
Sure. Yeah, love it. Herbert at the Cardinals. Herbert Panthers. At the Carolina Panthers. So we go back to the good old Chargers game here.
Yeah.
And we take Herbert. I think a lot of people are overplaying the amount that Justin or the Chargers are going to run the ball. I think what you saw in college was more of a product of from John Harbaugh with the.
We say this after we just said they're going to run the ball against the Panthers.
Well, they will run the ball against the Panthers because they like it. They like to do that. But I do think it's overblown. Like we're pretending like the Los Angeles Chargers with Harbaugh they're gonna run it 30, 40 times a game. I think there's going to be a ton of rushing opportunity for Dobbins and for Gus Edwards. Maybe a little less so because Dobbins was more efficient last week, but they want to get Herbert involved. He's going to have weeks where he can pass the ball and have success. I'm not looking for a big week from Justin Herbert this week. I think this is more of like he's not a streaming option because he's probably rostered, but if you're looking for a quarterback play this week and you need a guy, Justin Herbert, I think against Carolina is not a bad play because I think he can get you around 18 to 20 fantasy points and get you over that threshold that you need to get to in order to have a successful week at quarterback, especially if you don't have one of the top 5 to 6 guys. So I like Herbert in certain matchups, and I think Carolina is definitely one of those weeks. But like I said, I do think the rush it 40 times a game, John Harbaugh offense is going to be kind of a little bit overplayed.
Yeah, and to that level, yes, I do think they're going to run the ball a lot, and I do think they're kind of a run-first team. But that doesn't mean they're not going to throw it. Like this week against the Raiders, they ran the ball 23 times, and they threw 26 passes. So it's a balanced attack, but it doesn't mean they're going to run the ball more than they throw it, like some people thought. And I do think Herbert, if he gets 26, 27, maybe even 30 pass attempts, like he should have a good week. I hope you're right because I have to start Herbert in our league because I have Jordan Love. So Herbert's on my bench. He's going to be starting this week against Carolina. We're clearly just targeting Chargers players, though, because even if they do run the ball a lot, Herbert should be efficient in the air because this Panthers team just gave up 47 points to the Saints. And although I don't think the Chargers are getting 47, they're probably in line to score like 30 points this week.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Rick, finally, give us Rick's tight end start of the week.
Okay, the tight end special. Give me Colby Parkinson. It's disgusting.
Oh,
I know. But I like Colby Parkinson. He's tight end 7 after week 1, which isn't saying much because he only had 8 points. But he had 5 targets, 4 catches on the Rams. Tyler Higbee is on IR. So Higbeast is on IR. So Colby Parkinson is the tight end there. They signed him to a good contract. He's playing against Arizona. It is a great matchup. And with Puka Nacua out, there is an argument to be made that he is the second receiving option on that team. His 5 targets, if he can get you 5 targets as a plug-and-play tight end and get you 4 or 5 catches with the potential of getting a touchdown, that's pretty good. As long as Puka is out and as long as Higbee is out, Parkinson is a weekly potential fantasy option, and he has a good matchup against the Cardinals.
Okay. All right, there you go. There you have it. Must-start players for this week. Thanks for the tight end start of the week, Rick.
Oh yeah, we'll see if he gets more than 6 points.
Yeah, I'll hold you accountable because I didn't even look at that part of the sheet. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We are going to talk about guys you should sit on the next episode, so keep an eye out for that. We'll talk to you tomorrow, guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.